Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for The Bear Season 1, Episode 5. This episode is titled Sheridan. Once again, we're getting to see a little bit of Carmy
Mhm.
outside the restaurant. And I gotta say, who hasn't had a crisis where they've tried to go over to one of their family members' places and store an unholy amount of food in their freezer slash refrigerator? Like, this is totally normal behavior, right?
Listen, a lot happened in this episode, and there was a lot of reveals that kind of happened in this episode too, like what Richie's doing behind the shop. I mean,
Yeah,
everything with Sydney and all the medication that she's taking, Sugar being like, "Are you kidding me? You're
yeah.
gonna avoid me all this time?" And like then call Pete to come over for a favor,
Yeah.
fight with you next time. I was just like, "Oh my goodness, there's so much happening." Everything with the plumbing and then the electric and then the gas.
Yeah,
And it was so chaotic, but in all the right ways.
yeah.
Even with Marcus blowing the electricity with the mixer, like it was so crazy. This felt like one of the most chaotic episodes they've had, which is saying a lot because this show is just piles of chaos on top of chaos every single episode.
It's a it's an incredible show, but there are these times where you do get very stressed watching it. The mixer,
Yes.
listening to that mixer go, it's just like, oh my gosh, oh my god. And
That mixer
yeah,
and everything that was happening with Marcus, like, because we just watched Marcus in this last episode, like,
yeah,
delicately,
yeah,
mixing his cake and taking his time, watching him, like, icing sugar flying, cocoa flying everywhere. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm
yeah.
getting so stressed. What is happening?
This is why I could never work in a restaurant. I would be so afraid of falling behind and I have to scramble that I'm making a mess. Then it's like, it's all of these different things. And we learn so much more about Marcus in this episode too. And I think it
Yes.
explains further of, okay, he really wants this job and he really wants this job to work and he wants to take all this pride in what he's doing and
Yes.
being creative. We will, of course, dive into all of that and so much more. But before we do go forward, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below for that. And, we have a whole feast of TV conversation there every Tuesday night when we do our lives. We talk about The Bear. We chat with you guys. We answer questions. It is such a good time. We want you guys to be a part of it. And so we
Yeah.
want you to check that link out.
And every Sunday and Thursday, we've got new reviews here of The Bear all the way through season 1 and all the way through to the end of season 2. So, yeah,
Yeah.
stick with us, hit that subscribe button.
Okay, let's just stay on the subject of chaos in the kitchen here for a moment because the moment that something was going awry in the bathroom,
Hmm.
there's no sight more horrifying to me than like the toilet going, because then it's like, number one, where do you go? Number two, you got to
Where
clean
do
that
you
up.
go?
It's
Yeah,
a
you
very
gotta do that.
important question. And so like that, the moment that happened, I was like, okay, this all is going bad for Carmy now.
Yeah, it can get really messy very quickly and it can get really expensive really quickly. I mean, this is like a weird segue, but I was just watching a Toddy Westbrook video here, and she just had something really similar happen to her upstairs bathroom where it was like it overflowed and turned into a huge mess. Her whole ceiling had to be redone, her whole floor had to be pulled up. It was like wild how expensive it was and time consuming. When that all happened, I was like, oh no, like
Yeah,
how it's come all the way into the restaurant. Like,
yeah.
how bad is this?
And as if it couldn't be bad enough, the man you have designated as the person responsible to helping fix this would rather just have a job at your place. Like that, when they don't,
I know.
when the person does not want to do their own job and would rather just get your job, that's probably a sign that they may not be the right person for the job that you want them to actually do.
Yeah, and then we end up having the whole thing with the mixer and the electricity goes out. So
Yeah,
now they also have this problem where all their food is spoiling. They're going to lose all their meat. They're not going to be able to open. And Carmy has said very specifically, if we don't open one time, we're done. Like, there's no way we're going
yeah.
to be able to bounce back from that. The only way this works is if we are open every single time. Then we've got them like opening the oven, like, oh, the pilot light's out. We also have no gas. I was like, okay, then they're not able to open at all. Like, this is over.
This all reminded me a lot of, I watch a lot of Top Chef, and like they have these challenges on Top Chef sometimes where they force everybody to like you're going to be cooking outside under a campfire. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the bear top chef. They're going to come in. They're going to be, Carmy, you have to cook outside on this. If you want to be a professional in this world, you just got to find a way to make it work. Yes, I understand it is a lot harder when you're worried about money. Everything is going awry. You've also got Richie and a number of associated Richie problems that are rising to the surface.
Yeah, like that fight where it came out that Richie's dealing behind the shop
Yeah.
and that he was basically like to Carmi's like, "Are you kidding me with this? Like, how are we going to be a legitimate shop when you're doing this?" And he's like, "Well, who do you think it is that was okay with me doing this? Like, where do you think the money had been coming from besides the loan to keep this place going? Like, I'm doing this and putting it back into the shop. This is part of how we've been able to survive through all kinds of stuff that's happened to the shop, to the point that Carmy at the end of this has to come to him to be like, I need $5,500 to fix, the condenser, or we can't get going again. So one last time.
Is it really going to be the last time? Like, this is the thing. Neither one of us have watched ahead. So, like, we don't know where any
No.
of this is going. But it's just, to me, getting somebody to stop something like this when they're bringing in that much money. I
Yes.
mean, we obviously know the legality of it's a huge problem, but it's just, is there really a mechanism in place to stop it? Because it's clearly benefited the shop, whether they want to admit it or not. I mean, at least so long as if what Richie is saying is absolutely accurate. And I mean, I don't know how much we want to fully trust Richie at this point, given what he has done already.
Yeah, they're kind of Carmi's in this spot where he's basically like, yeah, we have to open every day or we're not going to make it.
Yeah,
But that means that nothing else can come up.
yeah,
They can't have, payments for condenser, for gas, or for the toilet, or for whatever, storage. Like, they don't have money for anything. It's we're getting by until the plan that him and Sydney are kind of trying to work out can come together so that they can bring in more money, but they're just not there yet. So they have to just buckle up and just keep going forward until they can actually start to introduce some of this other stuff without all these other things going wrong. Now, Sydney,
yeah,
you the hero of this episode. Oh my goodness. We
yeah,
got to know a little bit more about her, that she lives at home with her dad. We saw the incredible amount of medication that she's got in her cabinet.
yeah.
So at first I was like, is she sick or something like that? But I Googled, my little detective
Oh, yeah.
I Googled the medication that she was holding, and it was for like an acid reflux, which kind of makes sense, I guess, if you're a chef. I don't really know a lot about being a chef.
Hmm.
I don't like cooking at all, but I really love eating. So I love watching cooking shows and I love watching the show. But
Yeah,
anyways, that she was taking that right before she went to work. She is going to be tasting a lot of stuff
yeah,
and working with a lot of food. I assume that maybe some of these other medications over that. But when she opened that cupboard, I was just like, that is
yeah,
an incredible amount of medication. What is actually going on here? So I don't know if that's going to come up. Like Matt said, we haven't watched
yeah.
ahead. We're just kind of going as we're going. But yeah, the medication she took was for like acid reflux sort of thing. But we finally do get to know a little bit more about her, that she's gotten into deep credit problems because she was running a catering business out of her garage,
Yeah.
which is, incredibly difficult. She was sinking a lot of money into it and she just couldn't keep up with it. And now she's with Carmy. But those skills definitely came into play here when it was like, okay, we can't use anything inside the shop, but we still have to be able to have lunch happen. How are we going to make this happen? Outside barbecue. We're going to grab some stuff from the neighbors who are building some stuff. We're going to grab their concrete blocks
Mhm.
and here's some wood and let's go. And it was a success.
They found a way to make it work, which was really cool. And that's kind of the inspiring part of the bear, is that none of these people at this point. Yeah, I know that Carmen's.
Sydney is so inspiring. I
Yeah,
really love her.
yeah, she's a really fun, interesting character, and I mean, I'm sure there's more to her that we probably don't know. Like, I do feel like this medication thing is going to come back in some sort of shape or form, where it's sort of like, with her pedigree and with her history. I mean, it
Mhm.
does seem like she was hard up on cash and she just needed a job, but Could she have gotten a spot at a finer restaurant? Is there something that kept her from doing that? Was it just the appeal of working with Carmy, who is this
Mhm.
acclaimed chef who's working at this very different sort of space now? Like I still have a lot of questions about that, but you can't deny Sydney's work ethic, her creativity, her ability to sort of like think on a dime and figure things out and try to inspire and make some other people feel better. And it's just like her and Carmy do work really well together as
Yes.
well when they can sort of really talk things out and figure things out. They just have so much going on, and Carmy's got so much going on even just away from the shop that like it's a miracle this place is still standing at this point, honestly.
Okay, let's talk about Carmy calling Pete over Sugar.
Yeah,
So he knows that he owes Sugar a call, 50 calls,
yeah,
100
yeah, a
calls.
lot.
Like she's been calling and calling and calling. He is not calling her back. And it seems like he's also been avoiding talking to his mom. He's not really talking to anybody right now. And he has been going to meetings and it seemingly is helping a little bit. It's kind of too early to know. But I mean, he really is avoiding having to have that talk with Sugar right now because things are chaotic and he always has an excuse. But he calls Pete.
Yeah.
Pete comes through and is like, "Yeah, you want to use our freezer? Yeah, no problem. Come on, bring all your stuff over." They're caught red-handed in there where Sugar walks in and is like, "Are you kidding me? You called Pete
Yeah.
over me. I've called you 1,000 times." This is how the number just keeps rising. From 50 to 100 to
At the end
1,000.
of this
There you go.
episode, is it going to be a million?
Yeah, she's just like, "I've called you so many times that you can't even call me to like ask me to use this freezer. You got to go around me to avoid me that much to call Pete. Like, how dare you?" So they end up having this fight
Yeah.
in the other room where she's just like, "This is so unfair and so
Yeah.
ridiculous." And finally, Carmy's like, "Listen, I took the link that you sent me and I've been going to some meetings." And that just squashes it right away. She's just like, "You have? Oh my goodness. Okay, like if you're not talking to me, at least you're talking to somebody." And it's so good. And she feels much better. They have a big hug and she's just like, "Fight with you next week?" "Yeah, okay, fight with you next week."
There's something very weird and adorable about that, but it is also Carmy clearly he doesn't know how to process his emotions. He doesn't know
No.
how to open up to people, and
And he's still deep in his grief. He hasn't
yeah,
dealt with it yet.
like I think he clearly called Pete because he just thought it would be easier, and I think he thought he could
Yes.
get a straight answer. He wouldn't have to talk about anything else, and he basically found himself backed into a corner with Sugar, where it sort of became almost self-preservation. If I don't say this to her, and if I don't admit this to her now, there's not going to be any turning back. Or maybe he was just thinking about the business, or our meat's going to all go bad and we're not going to be able to do anything because he's
Yeah.
very focused on that.
Yeah, he is. And he basically was like, "I don't have time for this fight.
Yeah.
Like, the toilet's gone. I've got the electricity problem. I got the gas problem. My meat is going to go bad. I still have to open. I didn't have time for this fight." So
Yeah.
that is a way for him to diffuse the fight right away to be like, "Listen, I know I owe you a million calls, but I have been going to these meetings. Are we square?"
This is sort of the big question that I have for the rest of this season, if not season 2, is just that they're so in the hole, not just with repairs, with having to engage in this business that Richie has been doing, but also,
The 300,000
yeah,
he owes minus 2K now, I guess.
yeah, because he brought over some ecto cooler. But
Yeah.
like, in the midst of all of this, how is it possible for someone to bounce back? And I don't mean this just in a general sense, but we have watched enough Kitchen Nightmares over the years to
So
know
much
that pretty much almost every single restaurant in Kitchen Nightmares doesn't make it. They all like close at the end of it when they come back for the update. And it's just like,
Yeah, but they don't have Carmy
yes, Carmy is great, but it's
or
also,
Sweet Marcus.
oh, Marcus.
Oh, by the end of this episode, when he's like, this will never
Yeah,
happen again," and Carmy's like, "It absolutely will.
yeah,
It's okay. You're human. You're gonna make some more
yeah.
mistakes, and that'll be okay." And Marcus not only just taking responsibility, but then being like, I wasn't ready to make my cake because I was screwing around with these plums because I want
Yeah.
to make this amazing dish that Carmy had made, this like incredibly, high caliber dish where he's just like, I'm going to make sure this never happens again. And he's got out his, 7 containers of like, here's all the eggs I'm going to need for the week. I've
Yeah.
measured out all my flour. I've measured out all my sugar. I was just like, label everything. I was like, oh, Marcus.
So organized. He's really trying.
He's so endearing.
This is gonna be, I think, the only way they're able to get out of this is obviously the quality of the food, and I think
Yep.
they're showing already that they're working on that. That everybody is feeling inspired and bringing things to the next level. But that can't, as sad as it is, like that can't be enough. And I think over the rest of the season, the Bear is gonna have to show how, whether it's Carmy, Richie, Sydney, someone is able to actually go out there into the city and make it clear that this is a place that people need to go to, where they don't just have like a lunch rush and then that's it, where they can find a way to get a lot of customers, but also get everything at like the margins that need to be where they can actually turn some profits. And I'm not trying to turn this into Shark Tank or anything with discussing margins, but it is just like you're in such a deep hole in a restaurant. It's, they can only make so much money. It's just one place with a certain amount of employees and a certain amount of goods. So how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah. And I mean, they talked about some other options. I mean, this episode, they talked about raising their prices. Is that going to turn people away or will people still go there, because the quality is better or they know the place or they understand or, how is that going to work out? Or do they need to open up for other meals like brunch that they're just like, oh, we don't want to do that sort of
Yeah.
thing? But do they need to? We saw the last episode where Carmy was going and catering a party where it's like, okay, we normally don't do that, but we need the money. Like, we gotta branch out and do other things. Are they gonna find a way to advertise more to bring in people that don't know their shop?
You
They
know,
do have to do more stuff. $300,000 minus $2,000 is wild.
you know what? I wish that this show had more like diehard customers. Like you think about like Cheers, you think about like all these other places
Yeah.
shows that are like set around a restaurant or a bar or something. You always have like the usuals. Who are the usuals at Original Beef? I wanna see these people. I wanna understand who they are. Give us some more like weirdo characters on this show to give us a fuller sense of the restaurant environment.
Yeah, and the community. I'd like to see a little bit more of that, but not too much. I mean, this cast is fairly large,
Yeah,
and
it
I
is.
don't want to have like, kooky customer number 12 come in every day for whatever, and they're taking time away from one of the other, characters.
Can I get the beef sandwich? But I want it this many slices on bread that looks
Are you
like.
auditioning?
Yeah, yeah. This is my audition in scene. You guys want a weird bald guy to come into your place? I will have everything on your menu. And while they're all fighting, I'm just sitting back there with like 8 plates of food.
I know.
Well, we'll see where the rest of the Bears season 1 takes us. It's been a really fun journey so far.
It's been so great. And I know
Yeah.
you guys have been saying that season 2 is even better.
Yes.
I can't even imagine it. I mean, season 1 is so good.
Well, go ahead, check out our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. Thank you, of course, to everyone who has
you.
joined, taking part in our live chats every Tuesday. We'll see you here next time.